I/O module placement and configuration. As was mentioned earlier, the chassis is the basis for the modular architecture in a ControlLogix system. In fact, the location of the modules within the chassis form the basis for the tag-based input-output mapping of field I/O to the ControlLogix memory system. As we know, the ControlLogix controller can be inserted in any slot, and the same is true for all other modules. Let's say that in a system, we decide to place the controller in slot 0, and that we insert an Ethernet communications module in slot 6 of this 7-slot chassis. During the initial steps of a system configuration, input and output modules are going to be inserted into the chassis. These I/O modules are the ones that will connect to the real-world field devices, such as limit switches, push buttons, motor starters, etc. It is important to understand that the insertion of an I/O module in a chassis will define certain attributes that will define the input-output mapping in memory, referencing the tags or the devices connected to the I/O. For example, if we insert a discrete input module in slot 1, when we configure the system, as we'll see later during what is called discovering a module, the controller will recognize the module and allocate a base tag, also called local base tag address, to that module. It can be referred to as a local base tag because the module being inserted is located in the same chassis, or local to the controller that is discovering the module. In this case of the input module inserted in slot 1, the controller will allocate 2 input tags, namely local 1C and local 1I. These 2 locations are created in memory to represent configuration values, as well as input data and module diagnostic information. Remember that in the ControlLogix system, when the controller is put in the run mode, the controller will send or write the configuration values, the C values, for the module, and it will receive the input data and information values, or the I values, from the module. The input data will be the actual state of the physical devices connected to the input module, whether they are on, or logic 1, or off, or logic 0, as we'll see shortly. These local base tags can also be created when a module is added to the ControlLogix system. All the tags that are created will be represented in the Studio 5000 software in a section referred to as the controller tags. The field input devices connected to the input module in slot 1 will be known in the control program as addresses local 1 I data from 0 to 15, representing the 16 connections available in this input module. These addresses are used to reference the ControlLogix on-off or discrete instructions in the control program. For example, if a field input is wired to the input 0 in the module in slot 1, it will be known as local 1 I data 0. Furthermore, the Studio 5000 software allows you to also create another name or alias for that input with a more representative name, such as LS1, to represent the limit switch connected to the local 1 I data 0 connection in the module. In fact, this naming nomenclature is what is referred to as creating a tag. If the field device limit switch LS1 is activated, the base tag local 1 I data 0 will be logic 1 or on. And as we'll see later, the memory address in the controller will be a 1. And when the controller is evaluating the code or control program, it will close the normally open contact instruction referencing LS1 and thus provide continuity. All the field input devices connected to the input module in slot 1 will be stored in the ControlLogix memory like this, where a 1 or 0 represents the status of the input device, being on or off, respectively.